What you're looking at is a compact mini PC, something designed for productivity, office work, maybe light creative tasks. It's not built like a gaming tower, it doesn't have a massive cooler, and it definitely doesn't scream high performance desktop. But today, I paired it with a full desktop GPU. And once I started testing it properly, the results were more interesting than I expected. Now, before we go any further, GMKtec did send out the K16 for me to review. This isn't a paid video and they weren't able to see the script beforehand. And as always, this is my own testing and my own opinion. So with that clarified, let's start from the beginning and see what the system is actually about. The GMKtec K16 Mini PC comes in at around $680. At that price, you're already in mid-range desktop territory. You could build a solid AM4 system for similar money, so naturally that raises the question of value. But this isn't just a basic office mini PC. The chassis is compact, clean, and surprisingly well ventilated for its size. And when I say compact, I mean this thing is tiny. It's small enough to sit in the palm of your hand and disappear on a desk, which makes the idea of pairing it with a full desktop GPU even more interesting. On the front and back, you get a solid selection of I/O, including USB-A, USB-C, HDMI, DisplayPort, 2.5GB LAN, and most importantly, an oculink port. And that oculink port is really the defining feature here. Unlike Thunderbolt, which runs through additional controllers and can introduce more bandwidth limitations, oculink connects more directly to the PCIe lanes. In this case, we're getting PCIe 4.0 x4 bandwidth, which is significantly more capable for external GPU setups. It's still not full desktop X16, but it's much closer to native performance than older eGPU solutions. Inside, we've got a Ryzen 7 7735HS. It has 8 cores and 16 threads, boosting up to 4.75 GHz. It comes paired with 32GB of DDR5 running at 6400 MHz and dual PCIe 4.0 M.2 slots for storage. On paper, this CPU actually lands somewhere around a Ryzen 5 5500 or even a 5600 in certain synthetic benchmarks. So from a peak performance standpoint, it doesn't look weak. But as you'll see once we get into gaming, peak numbers and sustained performance are two very different things. Before we push it into gaming territory though, it's important to understand how the mini PC behaves on its own. The K16 by itself is actually pretty solid. In Cinebench R23, it scored 1,462 in single core and 11,672 in multi-core. That's respectable for a compact system. It's efficient, responsive, and perfectly fine for productivity, editing, schoolwork, browsing, or any kind of multitasking. For normal use, this machine feels quick. Applications open fast, multitasking is smooth, and thermals are all under control. And that's really important to establish, because what we're about to do is take a system that's designed for balanced everyday use and push it into a completely different category. Instead of relying on the Radeon 680M integrated graphics, I paired this with an external GPU setup. To make that possible, I used the AOOSTAR EG01 oculink eGPU dock. It's around $110 and supports PCIe 4.0 x4 over oculink. For power, I used the MSI Mag A750GLS power supply, and for the GPU, I went with the RX 9060 XT 16GB, which is around $490. So now we've essentially transformed a compact productivity machine into something capable of driving a modern desktop GPU. The question is, how well does that actually work? The only way to find out was to test it properly. Instead of starting at 1080p like most people would, I went straight to 1440p. If there was going to be a bandwidth bottleneck or CPU limitation, this is where it would show up first. In Fortnite at 1440p using DX12 on the low preset, we saw an average of 106 FPS. That's playable for competitive settings, but you can tell the CPU isn't delivering massive headroom. In heavier fights, frame tracing isn't perfectly consistent. In CS2 on high settings, it averaged 79 FPS. CS2 is much more CPU sensitive, and this is where the processor limitation becomes more obvious. It's playable, but it's not really an ultra high refresh rate territory. Arc Raiders on low with FSR3 balance came in at 56 FPS. This title leans more on the GPU, so performance feels steadier here, but it's still not what I would call premium. Marvel Rivals on low with FSR3 performance averaged 65 FPS, which is completely usable, but again, you can feel that the CPU isn't pushing massive overhead for very high refresh rate gameplay. So at 1440p, this setup does work quite well. It's not elite, but it's absolutely playable. So naturally, the next step was to drop the resolution and see how much we got by scaling it down. So when I dropped the resolution down to 1080p, performance didn't actually scale dramatically. Fortnite averaged 104 FPS, and it doesn't jump significantly higher compared to 1440p, which tells you that the CPU is starting to cap the experience. CS2 moved up to 104 FPS, which is a decent bump, but again, this isn't 200 plus FPS competitive territory. Arc Raiders stayed around 57 FPS, showing that the GPU is doing most of the heavy lifting there. Marvel Rivals landed at 72 FPS, which is still smooth enough to enjoy, but not pushing into high refresh rate dominance. At 1080p, the CPU and the oculink bandwidth becomes much more visible. Instead of unlocking huge gains from lowering resolution, performance levels off because the processor simply isn't strong enough to push drastically higher frame rates. And once you see that pattern across multiple games, it becomes clear that something else is in the way beyond raw core counts. Now, after seeing the gaming benchmarks, here's my theory on why performance can feel worse compared to a desktop CPU. First, the same chip does not mean the same power budget. The 7735HS is designed to operate in a 35 to 54 watt range. In many mini PCs, it's limited closer to 35 to 45 watts sustained. Boost clocks are short-lived, and during longer gaming sessions, the frequency can drop as thermals build up. Meanwhile, a desktop Ryzen 5 5600 runs at 65 watts or more continuously, has significantly larger cooling, and can maintain boost clocks much longer. So while peak benchmark numbers might look similar, sustained gaming almost always favors the desktop chip. Second, mini PCs have laptop DNA. They use laptop-style motherboards, smaller VRMs, compact heatsinks, and they share thermal headroom across the entire system. Once the temperatures start to rise, the CPU reduces clocks. Frame pacing can suffer and 1% lows drop, and that's something you can feel in the gameplay even if synthetic benchmarks don't fully show it. And third, memory bandwidth matters a lot. Mini PCs use SODIMMs, sometimes ship with single channel configurations, and often run more conservative memory timings. Desktop systems are almost always running dual channel with tighter timings and better sustained bandwidth. Modern games are extremely memory sensitive, so even if core clocks and boost clocks look similar on paper, the overall platform behaves differently under sustained load. And that explains why the experience feels capped rather than explosive when you lower resolution. So with all that said, does this make more sense than building a traditional desktop? If you add everything up, which is $680 for the mini PC, $110 for the dock, plus $490 for the GPU and the power supply, you're well into $1,200 territory. At that price, you could build a very strong traditional gaming PC with a stronger desktop CPU and better sustained performance. So this isn't a maximum performance per dollar solution. What it is though is a flexibility first solution. You get a compact productivity machine that works great for normal daily use, and when you plug in the GPU, it becomes a capable gaming system. And that modularity is really the whole point of a setup like this. So is this a gaming PC? It absolutely is. But it's not a high-end desktop replacement, and it shouldn't be treated like one. Of course, if your goal is maximum competitive FPS and the strongest possible 1% lows, a traditional desktop with a proper CPU will always be better. Anyway, this is probably one of the more interesting builds I've tested this year, so if you want to check out the K16 or any of the parts I used in this build, they will be linked down below. So let me know what your guys' thoughts are, and I'll see you guys all in the next one.